guys, welcome to our second book club. You may have previously saw us on our YouTube channel, and if you've got any comments or questions, just tweet us at Newman Book Club. So here's Phil, Chloe and Emma, we're back again. So our first book club was on The Girl on the Train, and our second one is now on Eileen by Atissa Moshfegh.
Trouble with the name.
I can't say it. Okay, so I got a bit of background on Atissa, and I saw an interview. I'm just going to quickly read the interview. She called herself honest in an interview with Literature Bennington, and she said that when she was younger, it made her feel good when she wrote males as being pathetic, whereas she now writes and focuses more on vulnerability of males. So does any of this transcend through the novel Eileen, do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so, especially with the father. It kind of picks up on both things because he's really vulnerable in the fact that he depends solely on her, especially like with alcohol, and you know, he doesn't eat, doesn't like look after himself, can't get out of the house. So definitely with vulnerability. There's not very many of the men in Eileen. The only ones are really the prison guards, but we don't get much detail on them. So
Do you think she might have done that deliberately and omitted male characters for the purpose of making the female characters the main?
Yeah, I felt like because her father was so vulnerable with his alcoholism, and also Eileen comes across as very vulnerable, whereas her father seems just pathetic. Like, he's pathetic because he's just so dependent on Eileen, but then she's vulnerable because she just takes it, and all she thinks about is freedom. She never gets it. And it's like with Randy, which is the prison guard, she just sees him as his sexual figure and nothing else. Like, he's not a prison guard in a juvenile centre, he's just a sexual figure that she fantasises over.
It's kind of like role reversal, then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
yeah, I would say that as well with Eileen's dad, the aggression that he holds, and how it just shows men to be either bad or horrible. It's a male prison where all boys that all have done bad things or wrong. Then obviously Eileen's dad, horrible, and then Randy being just pure, she just wants him for sex basically. And she stalks him. If that was a male versus female and the male was stalking someone, that would be awful and they'd be locked up straight away. But Eileen gets away with it for like, what, 2 years? Did she say 2 years? So I just think, it does show clearly.
And also Rebecca comes along and she's like this strong woman, and she, like, Eileen's attention just completely goes off Randy and onto this strong, independent woman. So I think women are definitely really prominent in the novel.
Agreed.
So next question is, what is everyone's thoughts on Eileen as a character? Is she likeable? Do you not like her?
I found her irritating.
Yeah, I think the whole point of her, I suppose, is that she's supposed to be unlikable. She is kind of a real anti-hero, a very grotesque character, self-deprecating, very rounded and just wholly horrible, really. I think, and wholly pathetic is for me anyway.
Yeah, I feel like she's quite a grotesque character. I mean, I picked out a quote from the book, and it just shows how grotesque she is. And she said about how there's something sexually gets her off with popping spots on her Russian's lower back. And I was just sitting there and I was like, there's nothing worse than popping spots. Like, there's nothing sexual.
No, I think Eileen as a character, personally, I don't like the book. And I think that is because of how she is. For her to be a strong, independent woman, she shouldn't be so dependent on men. And because all she wants is to be wanted, to be loved, to have that sexual attention like a sister. And I think she isn't strong, she isn't independent because she depends on that. And all she wants, she talks about it multiple times, so she's in the shower and she thinks about touching herself, and then she stalks Randy and thinks about what she's going to do to him. And then the worst scene of all is when she watches Lee Polk in the detention room touching himself. As a woman, you shouldn't do that to a 16-year-old boy. One, it's just wrong. Two, it's probably illegal. It's just wrong. And I just think the way the book's been wrote is too sexualised in the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea.
Do you not think that takes, I suppose, a sense of self-awareness though? So in that Eileen is clearly, I'm not sure what I'm say, is educated enough about herself to know that this is what she likes, so therefore she becomes more likeable.
I don't think she is educated. I think she's the opposite, because she's never had sex.
Yeah,
she's never had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's never had the love and the want and the feel from a parent or a sibling. She's never been wanted. So I think she's overcompensating with how she is and her sexual nature.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what I do actually like about Eileen is her imagination. Like, she's so creative with what she thinks. Like, the only thing that irritates me is she always imagines freedom. She always imagines getting out of Exville in Massachusetts, and she doesn't do it. And the only person who strives her to do it is Rebecca. Like, Rebecca's the only kind of source of freedom she has, and I don't know, like, it irritates me that she don't just do it. But then you kind of think, actually, would you do it if your father was an alcoholic and dying?
Part of it, yeah. It's
would
part
you
of
actually just? So it's quite likeable that she's willing to stay and look after her father, but then it's not, because it's just like, just go let yourself free.
I don't know, because I think if I was in that situation, I just want to go. He's not a dad to her, he's not at all. He doesn't provide for her, he doesn't support her, he doesn't love her, he just doesn't care.
It comes back to the dependence she has on male characters, though, doesn't it? Which is quite interesting.
I also wanted to say that I was reading reviews on Goodreads about Eileen, and a lady on there said, if you don't like Girl on the Train, you won't like Eileen. So how many of you agree with that?
Not at all, because I loved Girl on the Train, as everyone knows, but I absolutely detest Eileen. I think it was an awful book.
I'd say they are quite relatable in that it's very psychological with both of them, and it's really focused on the characters. Girl on the Train is very focused on the characters, like Rachel and Megan, and Eileen is very, very much focused on Eileen. And I feel like it overrides the plot as well, like the focus on the characters overrides the plot. But then in the same breath, I feel like the Girl on the Train is much more reserved. Like, it's not as grotesque and disgusting, it's more intimate and romantic, if you get my drift.
I think Girl on the Train's open to a wider market, and Eileen's open to a more niche market. It as well, with the way Eileen's wrote, is how you was saying that it picks upon the character, mainly Eileen, but she also talks too much in detail about, like, okay, so it was a Tuesday, it was raining, it was really badly raining, she could probably tell me how many raindrops were on the window, the colour of her pants, like, what was in the, like, sink, do you know what I mean? It was too in detail. I don't need to know that much detail, just get me to the main point, get me to what's happening, not like what was happening last Tuesday.
But isn't that a bit like Girl on the Train with how Rachel can't remember anything? It's like, just get to it.
I guess, but it's the way Eileen's wrote. It's every page. Where the Girl on the Train, it was like an ongoing thing, come on Rachel, let's do it, let's work it out. But you were actually getting to the point. I don't care what's happening outside the window. That's not helping me realise what Eileen's about to do. Like, do you know what I mean?
I quite like Eileen's descriptions of people. Like, she says, the people with the dirtiest minds have the cleanest fingernails, and I thought I was actually quite
the characters are a lot more grounded in Eileen. I think there's a lot of flat characters in Girl on the Train, and there's a lot of rounded characters on Eileen, for example. Eileen. So I think it's interesting that commenter thought that if you didn't like one, you'd like the other, because they are different character studies, whereas you've got one real rounded, focused character in Eileen. You've got a group of kind of flatter characters in Girl on the Train, I suppose, where you don't really get all of their personality. And I agree that Eileen is a bit more for the dedicated reader, I think, because Girl on the Train, I read it in 2 days, and Eileen, it has been a very slow read.
It's a long process to read Eileen.
I understand why they find similarities with the psychological kind of thriller element, but Yeah, I wouldn't agree that if you don't like one, you're not going to like the other.
I feel like it takes a while to actually get into Eileen because it is so descriptive and she's kind of like just, okay, I'm bored, can you just get to the point? So the last question I have for you guys is, what did you guys think of the ending of the book? Did you like it?
No. I hated it.
Why? Give us some specifics.
Yeah, because it was boring. It was over in a page, like, okay, so this isn't my house, I've got da-da-da downstairs, what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to shoot her on the arm, give her some pills, bye. Yeah. That was it. That was literally it.
I agree I thought it was trying to be Hitchcock, where it gives a big dramatic turn at the end, but it did leave me a bit flat. Instead of being like a
massive build-up to
instead of being a slow burn, like kind of... kind of other novels. This was kind of a punch and then it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah,
really.
But then I guess she gets the fantasy
closure.
element is always
there is an element
of freedom, and I feel like at the end it's just a massive closure for the reader that she's finally free and she does get to explore herself sexually and she does get to meet men and feel attractive and whatnot. So I do actually think like it does give the reader some sort of closure.
In a similar way that Girl on the Train, when Rachel goes and kind of tries to get her life back on track, I agree. It is good to have some element of closure, I think, at the end.
Yeah.
See, it irritates me because it was like, okay, so Eileen gets her fantasy. She gets to show Rebecca, that she is great and she's amazing and look, she's got a gun and she can shoot somebody and pow, blah blah blah. But then when Rebecca doesn't show but her dad's house, she's like, okay, here's my chance to leave. But she's so reserved about leaving, she don't just want to get up and go. And she is only leaving because she doesn't want to be caught out, not because she wants to.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of lets the novel down a little bit, because the whole thing is about her wanting to leave, about her wanting to go and live a new life, but she doesn't do that on her own. She's forced to do it by somebody else.
She is definitely, like, as we said before, like an anti-hero, isn't she?
She is, definitely.
But as well, with the fact that the ending gets a little bit confusing. I know it confused me and it confused you a little bit, whether Mrs. Polk is actually dead, because the whole foreshadowing with the little dead mouse in the glove box that she keeps there for the whole time throughout the novel, to then she gets Mrs. Polk and she leaves her in the car. She doesn't take her into her dad's house and leaves her in the basement like she said she would. She drives off and leaves her in the car, but she also makes a statement saying when she wakes up she won't know where she is. But so is she dead? Because you have shot her and you have drugged her, but is she alive?
I thought it was quite deliberate when the novel was kind of an extension of Eileen herself, because Eileen goes through the whole thing not really doing anything, and then at the end gets a chance to do something but kind of fails to do so. And the novel kind of throughout the whole thing does get the chance to do something, and when it finally gets the chance it leaves you confused, and I don't know whether that really reflects Eileen's confusion and the way Atesha Moshfegh has written Eileen into it as this kind of this woman who has the opportunity to do it, but in the end doesn't, and that might be some kind of commentary on women in general.
It could probably come through like how Eileen is so desperate for attraction. She's so desperate to be liked and desperate to get out of where she lives. And then it gets to the point where she's so desperate she's willing to do anything for this woman that she's idolised. And it gets to it, and she's like, actually, no, I can't do it. And but then she does finally get free, so I guess all of it builds up to that, I guess.
That brings me to one of my questions. Do you think there's sexual tension between Rebecca and Eileen? Do you think there's some desire that she sees Rebecca and she thinks, hang on a minute, this is what I want, this is who I want, this is how I want my life to be? Because it is all males, and then as soon as a pretty, attractive, skinny, beautiful woman comes in who's lived the life and moved over here and got a degree and has her own place, she wants it. Do you know what I mean? Is it she wants her life, or do you reckon she wants her.
I think she takes place of the men in it. So we've got a lot of pathetic men, as your comment says, that she likes writing about men's vulnerabilities. So she's almost replaced the typical male figure that would come and sweep off her feet with a woman, which I think is really indicative of what Moshfegh does in her short stories as well, when she writes about kind of strong, independent women and vulnerable men who meet other women and are empowered by them. So I thought that Rebecca really replaced the man in Moshfegh's life, replaced her dad, because her dad wasn't much, and the kind of lover she'd never really had, and I thought that was well done by.
But then I think you kind of feel like sexual tension because of how she describes Rebecca, like how she
she talks about her lips, the colour of her cheeks, the way her hair falls, and how when she slips off her coat, the arch in her back. And as a woman, I don't look like, do you know what I mean? If I didn't find other women attractive, I wouldn't pay that much attention.
That's the whole premise of it again, though, isn't it? Going back to the rain and why she focuses on the specifics of the rain. It's a very intricate character study, which I think says a lot for what this is. It's less of a novel, more of a study of character with a twist at the end, whereas Girl on the Train was a study of flatter characters, but with a stronger plot, I think. So that's where the differences come, I think, as well.
Sorry. But then I guess like the desire that you feel like sexual tension between Rebecca and Eileen is actually just her desire to actually just be her. It could just be she looks at her and she's like, that's what I want, because all the men are attracted to her. She's clearly very beautiful. So, and Eileen always goes on about how she's average looking, she's nothing great.
There is a part in the book there that says that Rebecca said there's like a breakfast bar and Eileen sat there, Rebecca's like wandering around, and she leans over and she goes, and Eileen said something along the lines of, what would I do if she kissed me? Which she talks about, so that makes me think, hang on a minute,
maybe
there is, because I wouldn't think if a woman leant across the bar to me that she was gonna kiss me. Like, I just wouldn't think that unless I was in a gay club.
She's very confused though, isn't she?
Yeah, I was going to say.
It goes back to her not having any strong men, so when she sees a strong woman, it's confusing, and she sees a woman who could be a man in her eyes. So the sexual tension, I think, is between a woman and a woman who is seen as a man, as opposed to two women, I think, rather than getting bogged down with it being between two women. So I think, I agree that the sexual tension is there, but I think it runs deeper than just woman to woman.
And then I think she's so desperate that anything, like any kind of attraction she has, she follows. Like with Randy, like he probably isn't even that attractive. It's just she's so desperate to be wanted, and he's a really muscly male figure in a prison. And I just guess that
shows dominance.
She's just so desperate for that male figure.
Another thing I was thinking of is, what about Eileen's sister? How do we feel about her as a character? Because we meet her once, but that was it. And how Eileen went off to college, but her mother got sick, so she had to come home. But her sister didn't. Her sister didn't have to do anything. She just went and lived her life, and she was a floozy. And it did say how she's had multiple sexual experiences, and she's been with multiple men, and she does nothing to help her dad out. Nothing.
I think it juxtaposes Eileen quite well, I think, and makes her even more grotesque and vulnerable, that she has someone who is kind of the same who's related to her, who's got the same blood, etc., but she's allowed to do what she wants, so it kind of reinforces how different Eileen is, and how she is really the main just the centre of the novel that holds it together. So I think it's well done that she brings her sister in once and just shows how she's a floozy and how she can do what she wants, and then goes back to how different Eileen is and how the situation is really different. So I think her sister was a good juxtaposition for against the strong character of Eileen, really.
But I guess like she also kind of becomes her sister because she talks about how many men she's had when she actually grows up, and how she kind of becomes a floozy herself. So I guess she becomes her sister.
Yeah, she gets married more than once, doesn't she?
Yeah.
But then she probably sees herself more as Rebecca when she gets older rather than her sister, because I get the impression she doesn't really like her sister anyway.
Yeah.
She's not a massive fan.
Seems like she's informed by all these different female characters. She's led by Rebecca, she learns from her sister, she's vulnerable like her dad. Seems like she takes bits of all the other characters, has them in, has this one big, massive personality that runs the novel, really.
How do you feel about the theme of death that runs through it? Because right at the start it talks about the dead mouse, field mouse that's in the glove box that is frozen, like it's a block of ice now. Then she talks about a dead dog that was locked out in the garden and died because nobody fed it, and she just leaves it there. She doesn't tell anybody. She leaves the dead dog there overnight, and then in the morning she goes and buries it. And then a dying mother, she talks about quite a lot, and then how she dies, and she just lay there holding on to a dead corpse just for that 1 minute of affection.
I think it's because she's so vulnerable that she doesn't really understand death. I think she sees herself as dead for part of the novel, so she just exists as something that's not alive, really, looking after her dad and has no purpose in life, really. So I think the death reflects how Eileen actually feels and how she exists within it as just a walking corpse, really, until the end when she can finally make a change. But then she doesn't. So I think the theme of death really reflects the main character, essentially.
Yeah. Because in the novel she does actually say something along the lines of, I want to die, but I don't want to commit suicide. Like, I'm not going to kill myself, but I don't want to be here. So it's literally like she is a walking corpse because she's not free. So
she also talks about how the near-death experience, she imagines near-death experiences with the icicle above the door. How every time somebody comes to the door, she wants it to fall and stab them through the heart. She said it about her dad at least 3 times, about the prison guard that came to the house because his dad was throwing stuff at the kids. But then, quite nicely actually, right at the end, it grazes her on the cheek. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a pinnacle moment. You feel like a bit of a breath of fresh air for her. And that's her mark then for the rest of her life, to remind her of all the hard done by things she's had to go through. And I do feel sorry for her as a character because she has put up with a lot of shit. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on in her life. And I quite liked that little mark with a war wound, if you like. I did have one more question, I just can't think of it.
So we'll probably leave it there for today anyway. Thank you very much for watching again. We'll probably have a third and a fourth book club coming up. These are all posted, the notes for all these will go on our website as well. We've got little posters there, little pictures of us, etc. Keep subscribing to the channel, keep watching the channel, and get back on our Twitter at Newman Book Club to see what we'll be doing next. So we'll just reach over and press stop on the. So thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.